You're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Kui.
I'm Haryanto Diman. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
Poon Chew Yok, who made headlines in May for not wearing a mask at MBS, has been sentenced to 16 weeks jail after pleading guilty to 9 charges.
She has been in remand since July 24th and her sentence will be backdated to take into account her time in remand. For each charge of contravening a COVID-19 control order, Poon could have been jailed for up to 6 months, fined up to $10,000 or both.
Last night, the Health Ministry reported 32 new COVID-19 cases among staff at the 8 bus interchanges, putting the total number at 469.
A quick look at the breakdown of cases for each bus interchange. Toa Payoh bus interchange now has the most number of cases at 150.
Followed by Boon Lay with 113, then quite a drop to Clementi, which has 39 cases. Sengkang with the least number of cases at 27.
Infectious diseases specialist Dr. Leong Hoe Nam from the Rophi Clinic is here now. Welcome to the show, Doctor. As we just outlined, over 400 cases have been linked to bus interchanges and probably more will be reported later tonight. How safe is it for us to ride on public buses?
I think it is still very, very safe. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat here. Minister of Transport, Mr. Iswaran, has said that he doesn't think, and there's no evidence of infection to the public at the interchanges. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So I am still very fearful for the public when they actually have to commute. Now, the context is this. Sydney has said 10 to 15 seconds is all you need for the virus to transmit across. So for those people who are using the public transport, and that's really the large majority of Singaporeans, there's you and me out there, we have to be very careful about the buses. We want to do our part for Singapore. We want to minimize the transmission. So what I would do is I would make sure my mask is well covered, covering the nose as well as the chin, and even wear double layer masks, especially with the reusable mask on the outside, with the single-use mask on the inside, the ones that have been certified. And number 3, if I can, I even do a tie behind to make sure that the side gaps here are closed. This way, only filtered air goes in. Remember, keep your conversations short. Better still, no talking on the bus, on the train. This way, you're going to protect the people around you. Now, we need to look after ourselves in order for Singapore to be strong. So I encourage everyone to not talk. Thank you for that great, relevant question.
Well, great advice there, Doc. So Singapore's Director of Medical Services, Kenneth Mark, he expects the cases in the bus interchanges clusters to fall from this week. This is something that he said on Friday. What's your assessment?
I would totally agree. That's because when you tighten the measures, the chance of transmission will come down. And of course, when the ministry comes down and look at the interchange, the rod will come down at the same time. And in turn, everyone will get in line. Everyone will make sure the mask is done properly. There's no more slipshod or lackadaisical attitude in terms of safe distancing as well as wearing the mask. When that happens, the interchanges will turn safe and the transmission will come to an end.
Right, so let's talk about something else, Dr. Leong. From this Thursday night, all inbound travellers from Category 2, 3 and 4 countries will need to produce a negative PCR test result taken within 48 hours before leaving for Singapore.
Compared with the previous requirement, the pre-departure test window has shrunk by 24 hours and now applies to Category 2 countries as well. So, Doctor, these border control updates are happening rather frequently, which can be confusing for those looking to travel here. Should Singapore keep reacting and adjusting our border measures? And how does it fit into our roadmap and strategy to becoming COVID resilient?
I totally agree with you. The changes happen so often, I have trouble keeping track with it. In fact, when someone asked me about it, I have to go online and check on the immediate measures before I actually answer the question. So yes, you're right. It makes it very, very difficult. And if you want to open up the country, when you have so many rules, it makes it really difficult. And the granularity of it, I mean, who can actually remember these figures? I'm very sure even that some of the officials themselves will be struggling. That was yesterday, that was last week, what of today, or even tomorrow? In fact, what is relevant today may not be relevant 2 days or even next week. Okay. But at the same time, you want such granularity so as to allow as many people into Singapore as freely as possible, or you want to do it in such a way so as to provide as many relevant testing as possible and take away those which are irrelevant. And I mean, take 48 hours, for example. You realize that the incubation period of the virus is shortened, and this is a response to the shortened incubation virus. I guess Singapore, we just all have to get ready. In fact, again, the plea is to get vaccinated. Once you're vaccinated, Singapore opens up much quicker, much faster. So what if people come in with a positive PCR? If the entire Singapore is vaccinated, there will practically be no deaths. So get vaccinated and protect Singapore.
Right. Well, Dr. Leong, thank you as always for coming on the show. We appreciate your time and insights. We've been speaking with Dr. Leong Hoe Nam, an infectious diseases specialist from the Rophi Clinic at Mount Elizabeth Novena.
Moving on, according to Johor's Menteri Besar Hasni Muhammad, Singapore will soon send around 100,000 PFIZER vaccine doses to the neighbouring state. Mr. Hasni also said Singapore had already donated some 20,000 Sinovac doses back on July 29th.
And another 300,000 Sinopharm doses will be contributed to Johor by the UAE government. As at yesterday, 53.5% of Johor's adult population has been fully vaccinated.
It's been almost 2 years of living in this pandemic, and looking back, we've achieved several milestones, a high vaccination rate being the most recent one. But that's not to say there weren't any challenges and setbacks.
That's right. You would remember these scenes last year at supermarkets just before the circuit breaker. Long queues and, of course, empty shelves. According to study findings by Nanyang Technological University released today, the fear and perceived scarcity of essential items drove people to panic buy.
The NTU team found that those who experience these social and psychological factors, as well as peer pressure, are 43% more likely to panic buy. Although age and gender didn't have a significant impact on panic buying, those who earned more money were more likely to engage in this behaviour, as they tend to have more purchasing power and can stock up on goods.
Professor Lawrence Loh from NUS Business School, who focuses on strategic management in consumer behaviour, tells us how the study's findings can be useful in managing possible future instances of panic buying.
I think the study is definitely useful to provide better insights to the range of personal and social factors underlying panic buying. I think it will be useful for policymakers and commercial business to address the underlying reasons underlying panic buying, and I think it will be useful for the timely awareness and assurances to counter FOMO, the fear of missing out.
In other headlines, the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore has lifted a flight ban on Boeing 737 MAX planes, imposed more than 2 years ago after the aircraft was involved in 2 fatal crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia.
CAAS's decision to lift restrictions comes after completing its technical assessment, but it hasn't issued a directive for operating the aircraft. For instance, airline operators that use the 737 MAX in Singapore must establish a specific flight crew training program, and pilots have to go through additional simulator sessions to ensure they're adequately trained to handle aircraft emergencies.
Singapore Airlines is the only local airline which has a 737 MAX with 6 in its fleet. Foreign airlines intending to operate the jet must comply with safety requirements as well.
For the first time in 10 months, Singapore's resident and citizen unemployment rates slightly increased in July, rising 0.2% each, following restrictions under the Phase 2 heightened alert period. In a Facebook post, Manpower Minister Tan See Leng said this likely reflected a dip in demand for manpower in affected sectors like F&B and retail trade.
The Peace Centre complex is up for collective sale once again, and this time, according to its marketing agent JLL, the owners are expecting offers in excess of $650 million. Comprising 232 commercial units and 86 apartments, it was previously launched for en bloc in March 2019, with a reserve price of $688 million.
Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.